to give up on Facebook.
No, I'm listening to what you're saying and currently going live on Facebook, part 2. Second try is always the best try.
Okay, cool. That's the famous saying. Cool. So
I'm
thank you
live.
everyone for joining us for this chat about us as a company, the work that we do, and then we're also happy to answer any questions on creating work, the kind of work that we do, supporting other artists, getting work made, getting new writing made, some of the opportunities that are out there for new writers, actors, producers, etc. So we've been running for about 5 years now. We've staged 2 full productions and about 12 new writing nights, I think, over the last 2 years.
God, I've lost track.
We've done a lot of new writing nights. We've staged a lot of plays from very, very new writers, actors, directors, up to people that have been doing stuff for quite a few years and just want to get their work on stage or in front of an audience. So that's what we're about, really, supporting people that want to get their work out there, whether they're writing their first play, trying out a new idea, trying out a new form. We're very welcome to working with people from all mediums of theatre. And we're a very small team. It's me and Holly, and then we have some associate actors who are people that we work with quite regularly, who we also devise projects with and workshop stuff with, R&D. And we also have some associate artists who are one of our directors. Nell King regularly works with us, and Asha Jennings-Grant, who helps us with movement and has run a few workshops with us. We try and make work that is accessible, affordable, and we're kind of about making our projects open to everyone. Like, we read every email, we listen to everyone that gets in contact with us. If we can't immediately support them, then we will point them in the direction of someone that might be able to. So as well as a company, we're also a network of emerging artists. We have a group on Facebook, the Emerging Artists Guide, which is an open forum for anyone to post opportunities for emerging artists and example other new writing nights or directing opportunities, acting opportunities, all that kind of stuff. So we're trying to bridge the gap between being a theatre company and also a network for emerging artists. We are based in London. We do work kind of wherever the work is, but primarily we operate in London and then run workshops in London, but we're also looking at doing other stuff outside of London when we're able to. Again, a couple of our projects we're looking at developing for regional touring as well as schools and educational workshops, which is something that we've been wanting to do for quite a long time, but have yet been able to make happen. But that is the plan over the next couple of years, I think. Holly, how are you getting on over there?
I'm good. To any Facebook Livers, welcome. This is our second try. You can't see Chris, but you can hear Chris. So that's who's been talking. He's the co-artistic director of Cuckoo Bang.
That's the best. That's the best way.
He's got he works very well on radio. But yeah, we were just talking about how we're London based. We were just talking about how we're London based, but I mean, I think particularly with what's going on right now, it's a real challenge for theatre companies to branch out beyond where they're based anyway, and to try and kind of connect with writers, directors, and now for the first time really actors who are not London based, because we have a lot of writers who are not London based who join our new writing nights, but obviously you usually can't have an actor who is not at least available to get to London, or a director, but this has posed a unique opportunity as well as a unique difficulty, a technical difficulty as well, considering this is my second attempt at Facebook Live. But yeah, it's an interesting time for theatre companies. Wouldn't you say, Chris?
It's working. I can, yeah.
Correct. So yeah, where shall we start?
I was saying I can sort of see you on Instagram and sort of give you 10 seconds behind. So. So we've done, so for the purposes of people on Facebook, we've just done an intro to us as a company. I am a writer, an actor, a producer, and met Holly at the end of 2014. And we decided to work together. And in 2015, we became a fully fledged company, put on our first show in 2015 and 2016. And since then, we have been sort of championing emerging artists and making connections with new writers, actors, producers, directors, venues that are particularly supportive of emerging artists, and just trying to create a community really of those kind of people that want to create work together and support each other. And we've gradually been growing in name and reputation, and hopefully our reputation is a good supportive one. And we're working towards a couple of new shows and various other projects. Holly, do you want to talk about some of the shows that we've done so far?
Yeah. So the first production we did together was a show by Chris, all about mental health, called In My Head. We did a production in 2015, a kind of work in progress at what was then the Proud Archivist. I'm not sure if it's still around actually. And then oh, there you go. On Instagram, Chris has just produced the script. We then brought that back to the Broccoli Jack in 2016, a slightly more polished version of it that was in an actual theatre space, because the original work in progress version was a bit more of a pop-up. That was part verbatim, part not verbatim, part fiction piece by Chris. And then towards the end of 2016, we did my play, which was called Choosers, and was a two-hander about two homeless men. Also got published in 2016, so they're both available in foils and online. And so you can kind of see that we try and tackle. I know everyone says they're like topical plays or like issues-based plays, but I just think, what's the point in going to a play unless it's tackling something to do with the human condition? So we try and talk about things that we believe need to be talked about without it becoming, while still maintaining its accessibility and kind of allowing people to engage in that conversation, I would say. Chris is nodding. So, Chris, we're also, we're probably most known to most people at the moment for doing a new writing night called Bits. Chris, do you want to talk about why we decided to do Bits and a little bit about what Bits is? And if anyone has any questions, pop them in the comments.
Yes, there's such a massive lag that I don't know if I'm speaking way ahead of time or behind you. But yeah, so those are the two. Yes. Yeah.
We're waiting for the lag.
Yes. So Bits has been running since 2017, I think. I think this is our third year. We started at the White Bear Fringe Theatre in Kennington, which is a brilliant black box-based about 50 seats, and the idea was to make us aware of other writers, actors, directors doing similar stuff to us and wanting to get their work out there and wanting to meet other people that want to create new work, and also a chance for us to access a much wider pool of international artists and people from all different backgrounds, race, sexuality, and people that perhaps we may not have met through traditional channels. So we wanted to create a platform really for emerging artists to try out their work, to take risks. A lot of the stuff that we program through Bits is very surreal, very political, very unusual, controversial, quite hard-hitting. So we wanted to, and very, very funny, so we wanted to combine all those elements and give people a chance to try out something new, and also for audiences to see a real range of theatre.
Well, that's hilarious. We're losing Chris on Instagram a bit. I don't know if I'm still on Instagram Live, but I'll just start talking on Facebook. It wouldn't be an online pandemic if there weren't technical issues.
So
Here it is.
Or rehearsal, one tech and performance day, and then a chance for industry and the theatre community to find out more about the work that those people are putting on.
For sure. I'm going to carry on talking about what we do with Bits.
Sorry, I'm just looking at the lag, which is trying to tricky.
So what we do with Bits that I find,
it's because we're the reason for people on Instagram.
Yeah, I've now left the Instagram, so I'm just going to do the Facebook one by myself. So Chris was talking about Bits, about how we put together, we kind of curate a series each time. There's always 6 different short plays or extracts that we put together. We accept submissions a couple of months ahead of time. We then pick 6. It's not just about picking the best 6, it's about picking 6 that we believe will make like a good series in one night. Some of those are short plays on their own, so those plays are only supposed to be 15 to 20 minutes long. Some of them are extracts from longer plays, or potentially a short play that people want to expand into a larger play. So we try and have a mixture of that. I usually compare it, but what we try and do is I'll just give a short intro at the beginning, explain that there's 6 pieces coming. We'll then have 3 in a row. We'll have an interval and then the second 3, and then we get everybody back. We started doing it just one day, and it was such a success that we ended up actually having it be a 2-day event. So the same shows get 2 chances to perform it. And I think people who are in actors and directors and writers who are wanting to see this work be put on stage or wanting a chance to act it, a lot of the time when you only have one opportunity, you don't really get to experience it by just doing it once, because the focus is just, we've got to get it out there. And giving people another chance, we found that actors in particular and directors really enjoy the fact that you get to play with it, because of course, like, most theatre events are not just one time only things. You want a chance to play with different aspects of it, and we wanted to give writers an opportunity to see different levels of the same piece. I've just got a question that says, what are the main things that we look for in scripts that writers submit for? Oh, that's such a difficult one. I think my question is always, why are you writing this thing? For theatre in general, and TV and film, why are you writing it? If you're writing it because you just want to get something down, that's a brilliant exercise. but I don't think it would usually make the most interesting piece. So I personally look for things that feel like they have a real reason for existing. Now that may be that the writer doesn't believe that that topic has been explored enough yet. It may be that the writer is from a particular, maybe they're from a gender, sexuality, and maybe they're a person of colour, maybe they have a disability, and they believe that their personal view of what they want to write about is unique, or they want to write about something in an interesting form. We had one piece like a year ago which was completely in darkness, and the piece was absolutely bonkers, but the fact that it was in complete darkness played with lots of different versions of what we perceive theatre to be. I've been asked as well by Simon Jenner, when we say short or an excerpt, do we mean 10 to 15, 20 minutes or 30? 20 minutes is pretty much our max. So our pieces tend to range between 15 and 20 minutes for bits, but we have had the occasional ones that are 10 minutes, and we've had a couple of monologues or extracts from one-person plays which can be or have been shorter, because perhaps they just want to create a concise extract and just see how it works. So yeah, between kind of 10 and 20 minutes, but it tends to average between 15 and 20. So yeah, that's what we look for. And as I said before, we like to look for a difference between different groups and different types of pieces. So that could be maybe you've written a 1 hour play, but you just want to see how the first 15 minutes works in front of an audience to see whether you can grab people's attention. That's what we did with a piece that I was working on, and that was very interesting to see, okay, does this grab people's attention straight away? Sometimes we have pieces that will always just be a short piece, where they've refined the piece to be one perfect parcel of theatre that they want to be shown, and we show them. And then we've also had things that have started off as a 15 or 20 minute piece. They used that, and we actually had a great one called Mission Creep by a brilliant writer called B, and that was kind of a 20-minute piece, and it's been evolved now into a 1 hour piece that actually performed at the White Bear Theatre and I think the Clapham Omnibus as a full hour-long show. That was by Controlled Chaos Theatre. So we've really enjoyed being a part of allowing writers and directors to not only meet each other, but also to feel inspired by what they've seen. And I think also it's a confidence thing. I think so often you sit, and as a writer myself, or someone who calls myself a writer, and then sits and doesn't write for ages because you're afraid that when your words get out there, it's not going to be perfect. Well, the point of bits is that it's imperfect. The point of bits is that it is what you bring to the table. And then what our directors and our actors do with what you've written. So it's actually quite nice, I think, from a writer's perspective, to be able to just let go of some of the fear of feeling like you have to be in control and you have to be constantly be the one pushing everything. It's quite good to let go of that control, I think. And particularly what directors bring to the table just from your script is very interesting. I know that when my first play, Choosers, was first up, I didn't want to be in the room for most of it, because my thought process was, well, I've been refining this script and I'll answer a few questions, but if they don't see something in that script, it's my fault for not putting it in that script. Or perhaps they'll see something that I didn't even realise that I'd put in the script. So yeah, that's kind of what I feel is really exciting about a good new writing night. And what we try and do, because we actually assign the directors to the writers and then the actors to the piece. So we take the control and that need for control away, but also, we do, accept suggestions from people. I've got about 4 minutes left, so I'm going to just talk about how we opened Cuckoo Studio, which was a rehearsal space in Bermondsey, part of the Biscuit Factory. It was called Cuckoo Studio, and we started last February, and it was a affordable space in quite central London, and the idea of that was also to engage with up and coming companies who want professional space but maybe can't afford some of the prices that London often offers. That's been so great because it's meant that we could engage with new companies other than ourselves. I think so often companies can feel like they have to fight one another for the limited amount of space that's in the Vault Festival or Edinburgh or Southwark Playhouse, and what we wanted to do was create a place that would allow companies to feel like they could have a hub of creativity in home. Unfortunately, the Biscuit Factory is currently closed for obvious reasons, and we are not going to be going back to that space afterwards. But I think there's a unique opportunity for smaller theatre companies. Obviously it's tragic what's happening to the theatre sector at the moment, but I think there's a unique opportunity for small theatre companies when the country starts reopening again. We are now starting to hear that a lot of the bigger theatres might not be open until next year, might wait longer and longer to open again, and whilst that's really, really tragic for our sector, I do think that there's a possibility for up and coming theatre companies, more diverse theatre companies, to really decide that now is the time to bring theatre back to its community roots. And I know as two white people, me and Chris, who was here earlier on in the Facebook Live, but we lost him, we think it's really important to share spaces with all different people. I'm in the LGBT community. I think that's really important for LGBT voices to be heard. Obviously, at the moment, voices from people of colour, black voices, we need to elevate them more than ever. And disability voices, we often do not appreciate them. We often talk about accessibility, forgetting that we then do something in a space that is not wheelchair accessible. So we've started trying to make more connections with companies, with actors, with writers, and with theatres themselves that are much more accessible. For example, we've started doing some stuff with the Streatham Space Project, which is an accessible theatre, a new theatre in Streatham that's wheelchair accessible and just in general very accessible. So that's kind of our aim over the coming years, to reopen our rehearsal space at some point when it's safe to do so, to continue to do bits. And just before I go, we've actually got an online new writing night called Megabits coming up, where we're just sorting through the monologues now. So we're trying to continue, and anyone who wants to communicate with us, to collaborate with us, just get in touch. We're info@cuckoobang.co.uk. As Chris mentioned earlier, we look at every single email we get. Look out for Megabits that will mainly be on Twitter. And big thank you to the King's Head for allowing us on, despite the technical hitches, to chat about what we do. Have a great day, and make sure you keep in touch with the King's Head, because they're doing amazing stuff to keep people chatting about theatre and keep theatre companies and practitioners and audiences connected, even while we might not be able to be in the same room as each other. So yeah, thank you very much. As I said, if you have any other questions, hit us up. Our Twitter is @CuckooBang. And yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, King's Head. And have a good Monday. I've completely lost track of days.